Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. We're coming to you live from CES in Las Vegas, Nevada, and joining me for this segment we have Anna Stone. She's the Director of Growth, NFTs, and Corporate Social Responsibilities at eToro. We're going to talk about financial inclusion and how Web3 is helping with that social impact. It is great to have you with us, Anna. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thanks so much, Jill. Happy to be here.
And let's talk about onboarding and underbanked, leveraging Web3 and how it can open up this financial inclusion.
Yeah, well, one of the most exciting things that's happened here at CES is we've actually had a great opportunity to really repivot the conversations about crypto towards what's really interesting, what's really important, which I think are the larger infrastructure and paradigm shifts that are potential because of the transformational nature of blockchain. And so there have been a number of sessions that have been focused on what are the positive impacts of crypto? What are the potential benefits of a more decentralized financial system? And so yesterday we had a great session where we really covered public goods and public networks as public goods and how the open, decentralized infrastructure of crypto and blockchain enables just more access for people who traditionally are financially underserved. Let's not forget that we have 1.7 billion unbanked people in the world, 5.5 billion underbanked people. So there's a tremendous room for innovation and growth in terms of how can we actually use this transformational technology to offer over time more access to goods and financial goods and services.
It's so interesting. We keep hearing the concept of utility come up at CES, whether we're talking about crypto and the underlying technology, or whether it's AI, cloud, cybersecurity, but this concept of technology as a utility. So when you think of it in those terms, what does the future of financial inclusion look like when you're building a more inclusive system?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so interesting at CES because CES is so trend in innovation and forward looking, and then you begin to realize that, what 5 years ago was a trend at CES is now standard products in every single product, good, service on the floor, right? Internet of Things 5 years ago, 10 years ago was just a trend. Now you walk around the show, every single device, whether it's a car, a fridge, you name it, it's a connected device, right? So I think, where does that put crypto? Where does that position blockchain? I think what we see now is that, first of all, it's critical and important that blockchain is part of the innovation and larger technology conversation. And I believe that ultimately, this is the right place for it to be. It's, we're surrounded by early adopters here, right? And the more that we can show the transformational power of blockchain, of crypto, of the ability to really, that this technology is not just what you've seen on the news, it's not just the headlines, but has the potential to really affect things that are useful.
Right.
In day-to-day life, right? Digital identity, privacy, all of the Internet of Things that we just discussed. Who owns that data? Who benefits from that data? Who gets to access it? Is it companies or is it individuals, right? And so I think what we see is that trends start off as trends and thoughts, but ultimately what ends up happening is that they are integrated into the goods and services that we use every day. And when I think about it from that perspective, I realize that crypto is an underlying technology that over time is going to become implemented in all of the goods, services, et cetera, that we see throughout this exhibition.
Yeah, well, and to your point, it is refreshing to be talking about something else besides, what makes the headlines in traditional news, because there is way more use cases than what we hear in terms of, just trading crypto. So let's talk about eToro more specifically. How does your core business model support Web3 and social impact causes?
Sure, so I'd say, one of the things that eToro does very, very well is it provides a very fertile ground for people to really begin to learn the markets within the context of community, right? It's a social trading network. The idea is actually, how do we educate people and provide the exposure so that ultimately new investors or emerging and amateur investors feel comfortable in accessing the markets, right? And so financial education and in really democratizing assets has always been key to the mission and the product of eToro. And as an extension of that, one of the most interesting things that eToro has done is actually their corporate social responsibility program, which is that rather than, let's say, adopting a more traditional program, eToro has really invested in developing and releasing open source technology that can be used as a public good by people all over the world. And this is exemplified in the Good Dollar project, which is a crypto universal basic income project, which eToro very much spearheaded and supported the building of the Good Dollar protocol. But ultimately, this protocol, this decentralized finance protocol, offers a new standard to create money as a public good, right? And just like Bitcoin or Ethereum, it is now a financial infrastructure upon which other people can begin to build on top of, right? Other people around the world. And one of the most, when we talk about utility,
Right.
this is what crypto has so been lacking, is how do we actually make crypto as a concept useful for real people in the real world doing real things. And Good Dollar, because it's focused off of really reaching people who are otherwise financially underserved or in hyperinflationary markets, you begin to see individuals who receive this crypto really value hacking into it and building utility into it to do real things like access airtime, like sell clothing, like raise money for causes, like pay their school fees. And I think these are the types of how corporates can contribute to supporting public networks is really the next generation of corporate social responsibility and impact.
So just so we understand it a little bit better, Good Dollar, does that actually have a value assigned to it? Is it traded, or how does it work?
Yeah, so Good Dollar is a reserve-backed cryptocurrency token. So yes, there is a value ascribed to it. It has always been liquid. It means that there is, essentially stable coins in the reserve. And as stable coins come into the reserve, new Good Dollars are issued and given away as universal basic income. And so there are lots of different ways that corporates can contribute to promoting an open UBI system, whether it's through financial support or as eToro has done, which is really contribute the building support, the resources, the engineers that have created the open source code, the documentation, etc., which now facilitates, people from countries such as Nigeria, Argentina, Vietnam, etc., looking at what's been built and beginning to use that infrastructure to build applications for their own communities.
Right, which is so interesting because those of us in the US or Western Europe, we tend to think very central bank focused, right? Because we have a banking system. But the fact of the matter is billions of people transact this way. This is how they build their economy. This is how they make money and conduct a business. Whereas before, there is no access to banking. How do you transact and receive some sort of income for your services and goods?
Absolutely. I think it's, when we, in the United States, in Western Europe, where we have very advanced financial systems and we also have very advanced capital markets.
Right.
And it's very easy to take those for granted. And to remember that there are billions of people around the world who don't have access to the most basic financial services, right? They also don't have access to money, right? Money is not as efficient as we'd like to think it is. It does not always flow to the places where it's used the most productively. In fact, in economies that are struggling the most, that's where the cost of capital is the most expensive, right? And so one of the concepts behind Good Dollar is actually, let's let money flow to the places where people, one, really need cents on the dollar, and two, there's the innovation human capital to unlock because you're providing them with funds that enables people to really build on top of that, both the financial and human potential.
All right, Anna, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me at CES. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.